Hopefulness 2.0, April 22nd. Meatloaf. Meatloaf. It's not as good as the last one. Mainly because I have So in order to keep my carrots from going to shit, I put them in the freezer. Then I thawed them out, and then I forgot that doing that kind of breaks them down a bit. So it's a little on the mushier side because of the carrots, and there's quite a bit of carrots in it. Also in the process, it was second. I cooked it in the loaf pan, which isn't inherently a bad idea. It's just that in doing so, part of the glaze was on the loaf pan itself, and it was burning, and it was potentially going to set off the fire alarm. So I had to basically just turn off the heat for like the last 15 minutes. And just let the heat of the oven, as it was, do its work. Which would have, if I had the heat going that entire time, instead of it gradually cooling off like that, would have tightened it up a little bit more. Just generally kind of what you would want in a meatloaf. Check here. It's not terrible. I mean, meatloaf it's a difficult thing to really make flavorful because you can't season it during the making. You can't like taste and season during the process because you're dealing with raw meat. And so like you're binding it all together and you're making this really homogeneous thing. It's kind of it's in a way it's like a trash food in a way, which is a negative way of putting it, but it's the kind of food that you just kind of dump stuff into. You know, it's the trash can of food. And there's a number, like soup is more so than anything else. I mean, if you've got a bunch of stuff and it's time to throw a bunch of things into something, soup is the way to go. You just dump a bunch of it into a pot of water. And I mean, I even put a pretty decent amount of the glaze into the loaf itself. Now, admittedly, it's cold, and so what I could do, I think I might as well, is heat up a little bit. What I'll do to help is break it up. So one thing about cold things is that cold mutes the flavor of stuff. So when you have, some kind of leftover, whether it be from some kind of takeout or whatever, for 6 minutes. So microwave noises instead of loud ones. I feel like putting this with the I don't know. Well, Okay. Well, okay, let's finish that thought, then I'll throw on the other thought. Because I go back and I watch my videos and I'm like, damn, I never even finished a thought. Or I had one and never finished or something like that. Anyway, so when something is warm or hot, as long as it's not so hot that the temperature overpowers flavor and thus effectively burning you in some capacity or another, like a pizza, for instance. Fresh pizza, the sauce, usually super hot. You usually don't want to do that. So, because you burn yourself. So in order to not burn yourself, you let it cool off a little bit. But you still want warm. Warm is going to allow you to really taste the flavors, whatever is going on, whether it's the flavor of the crust, or the flavor of the cheese, the sauce, and so on, the toppings and everything. When something is cold, the flavors are muted. So warming it up. This is why, it's one of the reasons why some people will literally put, cold pizza in a microwave. My last girlfriend, she would literally heat it up on the stove. And, I get it. I'm the kind of person who, generally speaking, will just eat cold pizza straight. Although I learned that you can make basically French toast pizza. That's pretty good. It's like, instead of using bread, you just take the slice of pizza and soak it in the eggy custard mix, and then heat it up like you would, French toast, and now you have French toast pizza. And I've done that, and it's pretty interesting. It's pretty good. It's time consuming comparatively. If you just go in there, grab a slice of fucking pizza out of the fridge, and then just eat it, the time difference is massive, and obviously that can be a big reason as to why one might do something or one might not do something. So. But so on to the next piece of information, which is news, which is an interview at that Sober Living treatment facility on Monday. Sent in my resume. Had a brief conversation with the guy who was running it. And it was a good combo, despite it being brief. And, it's like, I've more or less changed my tone. One, because I need a job. But two, it's like, based on the information that I've received from my buddy who works there, it's like, okay, I get it now. Also, the funny thing is like, when I called up, they were supposed to transfer me to him, but they transferred me to my buddy's phone, and he wasn't there. But then I got a call back from the guy running the place, and he said that there must have been a miscommunication or something, because they were supposed to transfer me to him. So, I got a phone call probably, I don't know, 2-3 minutes later. Talked to him for about 5 or 10, and yeah, so gonna have the interview on Monday, and then my buddy said he's gonna be he's willing to do kind of like an interview prep thing on Sunday afternoon, so he's gonna call me for that. So that's cool. And then, fortunately, he was willing to be open about information, which is nice. This is the first time I've had communication with somebody about a potential job where it felt like a conversation. Now, I understand interviews are on a little different side, but I even asked him, I wasn't, I just wanted to clarify what the hourly rate was and everything. He was open about it. And it's $16 an hour, which is like $1 more than what I think my friend said. Now, if I'd be making more than him, that'd be weird, and that would be something that would bring up. But yeah, so that's a thing. And then he also said that it's not going to be starting off at full time; it's going to be part time because kind of in the whole transition. but people were, kind of calling out and stuff, and he was saying that, it's not really like a long-term thing that a lot of people do, and, because, and that was the funny thing, it's like, the honesty and the transparency are very important to me as a potential worker. It's one of the reasons why I don't like the question, tell me about yourself. It's not a fucking question. Because it doesn't really break down who you are. But asking pertinent questions and then getting honest answers tells me more about a person than anything else. Having a real conversation with a person about what you're, about the job or whatever, it's like, I know that one of the things that I might say when I go into the interview is like, I hope I didn't seem like I was trying to rush. I know that you're a busy person, so I wanted to take as little of your time as possible. That's a courteous thing for me. That's a courtesy. I do that while it may seem to some as a form of impatience. It is a kind of empathy. But if you ask me, if you say, tell me about yourself, I'm not going to come up with that crap. It's not going to pop into my brain. And I feel like, based on the brief conversation I had with him, there's a lot of mutual understanding. And that's not something that I can tell somebody when they say, tell me about yourself. It's like, that doesn't fucking work. And it's like, I think it's the reason why I got my job at iHeart, is because we actually had to sit down and have a conversation. Yeah, of course, they talked about the job itself and various things, and I asked questions and I didn't wait to ask a question. I did the thing that I do, which is, hold on, what does segging mean? Like, never heard of it in my entire fucking life until we had that conversation. And then through a quick breakdown, they kind of told me what it was. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And it's kind of like live audio editing in a sense. You're simply just moving one audio file, and you're allowing, you're moving two audio files so that they blend together. They cross over to each other. Now, through the system that they had, not the greatest. So you have to work with what's there. And it's like, okay, so because you're using this older technology, now they didn't tell me all of this stuff, but because of my hobby / educational understanding of audio editing and video editing as well, like, the concept of segging, once I actually started doing it, was stupid easy. Now, I mean, it gets to the point where that's pretty much all you end up doing for your job, and it gets pretty boring, but going from, I don't know what the fuck that is, to, oh, that's something I could totally do. Yeah, not a problem. And they had mentioned it to each other. Like, it was who my boss ended up being, and effectively my other boss, who is, like, the assistant to a lot of the other various program directors. Because I was technically hired to work at KISS FM, which was a dream of mine. Like, full transparency, no hyperbole. When I was a kid, when I was like 13, 14, 15, 16, I used to listen to KISS FM all the time. And, I ended up actually going to the station and picking up CDs because I didn't know how, because I'd won a contest and I didn't actually know how you were supposed to do this stuff. And I ended up calling, and I got the DJ himself, when I called and I was like, hey, I got a bone to pick with you. I'm a kid, by the way, saying this to a grown man. And he's like, pick away. And I remember that because of the interaction and because of how important it was to me, too. But, so I mean, like, that's sort of the establishment of Kiss FM being, sort of the dream job. Now, I get there and the job is everything that's not a dream. It's very much a nightmare in a lot of ways. There are elements to it that are good. There are elements to it that need drastic improvement. And there are elements to it that were bad, which would also fall under the needs drastic improvement. But they need so much drastic improvement that they were bad because of the nature of what they were. Anyway. But during that conversation, during that interview that I had with the program director and the, sort of all the assistants to the program directors, it was a conversation about things. They were talking about some stuff, and like, it was a free-flowing conversation. It made sense. It wasn't just a back and forth. And while I get that can be used to disarm people, because I know that there is a social manipulation thing that happens when it comes to interview processes and like, it also was very much the way that they spoke as well, just in general, with each other and with me and other employees, learning after the fact. And so the problem that I have largely with a lot of businesses and jobs and the like is that the people who are running it they're not capable because they've been stripped of certain powers, despite the powers they have. My boss would have probably preferred to pay me more based on the information that I was able, the interactions that we had. I'm pretty sure she appreciated the work that I did. Despite often having to be, kind of the bad guy and calling her up at fucking 3 a.m. sometimes. But that's the job she signed up for too. And I never liked fucking doing it. I'm sure she didn't like it when I did it. But that's the thing. But again, there's openness, there's honesty, there's no sense of pretense that's like, let's get down to business and actually talk about stuff. And these interviews that I've had so far, or what you might call interviews, these Zoom interviews especially, it's just been like a show. It's less about a conversation. It feels more like a show. I'm gonna heat that some more. I let it sit in there for a little while to carry over cooking. So that I can maybe do a little bit more, but it still needs to warm up. But thus far, and the whole point of this is like, thus far, based on the brief conversation I had with him, I'm feeling more comfortable. I'm feeling better about this situation. And then with my buddy, he's going to do, the interview prep. I don't know how long that's going to last. And again, like I said, he's, kind of a salesman, Mr. Headstrong. And so at the same time, it's like, I don't know exactly where we're going with that. But I appreciate it as well. It's like, I know he has his heart in the right place. So I'm at least willing to listen to him. And I'm not out there just, being like, ugh. No, it's like, all right, cool, awesome, let's do this. And so, yeah, there's that coming up. So, and part of my problem is that when I get my hopes up, So there's this sort of rule of thumb, if you will. Expect the best, prepare for the worst. I'm the opposite of that. I am expect the worst, prepare for the worst. Or if I'm expect for the best, I'm preparing for the best. It's very hard for me sometimes to compartmentalize my emotions when it comes to this stuff. Like, I get giddy, and that has backfired. And I mean, you know, I'll get super depressed, and then that backfires. You know, it's so hard for me to outmaneuver my emotions. And I don't even know what the emotions are because they just slump onto me. And whether they be good or bad. And that has caused me trouble in the past. It ends up being a reason why I just don't do anything, or why I'm doing things and then I'm not doing other things that I need to be doing, or what have you. Like yesterday, I had to take a fucking shower. Because I got it in this positive headspace, and so I was just kind of fucking around and having fun. And I didn't even do the stream or anything. And part of the stream was kind of like a, you know, side thing as a possible, hey, maybe I'm gonna make some money. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Fuck. We'll shower today though, because I haven't showered in 3 days. Well, this will be the third day if I don't. But yeah, and I got food, and I can make food, and I can make stuff, and so that puts me in kind of a, and that's the funny thing too. It's like the option of making food is kind of a nice thing for me. You know, yeah, the dishes they can fuck off, but you know, it's like I washed a little bit while I didn't wash everything, but I washed a little bit while I was cooking. Oh, and everything fit into the loaf pan. Like, I was surprised how that fucking loaf pan fits a lot of goddamn stuff. And you know, I redid my starter. So I'm gonna dump half of that out later today. Today's Friday. And I didn't really eat anything yesterday either until I ate the meatloaf. Like, I was hungry kind of all day. I had like, I'll show you one thing that I did. I took what was remaining in here, which wasn't a whole lot. I poured in a cup of milk, shook it up, let it sit upside down for a little bit so that I could, you know, kind of dilute a little bit of the cream and stuff. And drank that, and that was delicious. Like, where have you been all my life? It's at the store. It's been at the fucking store. But I didn't know how much I liked it. And it's like, you don't need a lot. That's the crazy thing. It's like just a little bit. So satisfying. And I mean, you know, yeah, it's got, what is it? I got another one in the fridge. Just do that one in the trash. I don't want to dig it out. So, it has cream, milk, carrageenan, which I believe is a thickener, mono and diglycerides, and polysorbate 80, which are probably preservatives. Heavy whipping cream. Make sure cream is cold before whipping. Shake well and pour contents into a chilled, narrow bowl. Stir rapidly until cream is stiff. I would think a wide bowl would be better than a narrow bowl. I don't know. But you know, I got a bunch of eggs. Put some eggs into the into the meatloaf. I used the 2 egg yolk thing that Adam Ragusa did in his video. The emulsifiers in the yolks, from his understanding, not mine, but Apparently help with binding, which is one of the reasons why eggs are used in so many things. Also, I have, a nice little... I used pretty much what was in here yesterday for the filling, the glaze being put in here. But at the same time, I made, an entire new batch as well so that I had extra so that I could, put it on leftovers and stuff. Okay, see, it's too hot in order for me to taste it. So let that sit for a little bit. But long story short, I'm in a better mood. And cooking does actually surprisingly help me get into a better mood. It's kind of like what Claire was saying about how, when it's bread baking day, it's like when I'm gonna be making something, it's kind of on a stress thing, but knowing that I can, for me, is less stressful. Now, not having something on a backup and, just, I don't want to cook this day type thing, that can be stressful too, but I got a big ass fucking thing of peanut butter. And I got, what's it have, damn it, what the hell words am I thinking of? Peanut butter. Oh, Popeyes. For now anyway, I think I'm at 2. Dos Popeyes. So 2 of those. I also have a bag full of chicken bones. I got the chicken thighs and they're ready to go. And so when I get those, what I'm gonna do, is I'll debone them, put them in the bag, and then on maybe Sunday, I'll make some broth. And that's another thing too. It's like I have things that can come into it's not bad, still not great. So here's a thought. Adam's method of doing everything in the pan, too messy for me. I did everything in the bowl, but the bowl is too small. So it still got messy. Instead of shredding the carrots on the grater, I used this plus the little blades. This is essentially my food processor. Because, I'll show you here real quick. This is my Ninja food processor, whereas this is the Ninja blender, and it has its own little set of blades. Voila. So, I decided to do that, even though that's, against the whole idea, because he's all like, well, the point is to dirty as few dishes as possible, but I didn't want to shred part of my finger up again. 2, I wanted to see how well it worked. I blended the shit out of those things. Like, I know now when it comes to these onions, these onions especially because they're much bigger. These are about your normal size onions. The last one I had was kind of small. I would need to do 2 halves because yesterday when I was doing it, it ended up becoming almost like a paste. Now it kind of like, in so doing, I don't really taste any onion. Like, If it's there, it's more subtle instead of having big chunks. So maybe I don't need to worry. I don't know. Yeah, so I'm going to be using that whenever I'm doing shit like that. Like, yeah, I mean, the whole idea, like I said before, is he's got it set up to where, you know, you're trying to dirty as few dishes as possible, and, like, I get it, but at the same time, I don't like that method. But there is something that I got out of this. And that is the amount that's in that loaf pan. It's like right up to the top. And also, you don't get a full coverage of the glaze. It's only just the top. And so what I figured I could do is dump it out onto something that's flatter. Now, at the moment, the only real option I have is my half sheet pan. Now, I could get a quarter sheet pan. If that's the case, I mean, I'm probably not going to be doing it for a couple weeks anyway. But if I get the job, then one of the first things I'm going to do is buy a couple of things. Get a hand mixer, a better mixing bowl, a quarter sheet pan. Because the quarter sheet pan can be used for a lot of stuff. It can be used for cooking stuff. It can be used for mise en place. I mean, I still got like big chunks of carrot in here. Oops. Like, big old piece right there. So, yeah. We'll see where this all goes in the coming days. And, you know, it's not too far. It's let's see, it's off of El Molino. Gold line goes to, man, it's been a while since I've been in Pasadena. Because it's back up in Pasadena, which is funny. We'll see. But it's still not great, but it's whatever. Something to learn from. Probably need to throw in a little bit more salt back, because it just doesn't seem seasoned well enough. Salt is one of the biggest seasonings that you're gonna have. Salt and sugar are two of the most powerful flavor enhancers that you can get anywhere. And I mean, I cracked in a bunch of pepper too, and I don't feel like I can taste it. I mean, it's kind of the nature of the homogeneity of this. But it's whatever. I ain't kicking myself for it. It's a learning process. Plus, I have glaze to drizzle over other stuff, which has the sugar, and you know, the natural tomatoey sugars, and the acid from both the tomato and the vinegar. And it's cool, so it's helped cools it off a little bit. But I think at this point, I've said all I need to say. Have fun.